Hey everyone, John Henry here, and today in the market psychology video, we're going to be taking a look at Euro because, again, Wednesday, inventory day. We like to take a little break on Wednesday just to let crude oil kind of do its thing. Taking a look at the Euro currency futures in a very interesting morning. We had yesterday as a nice bearish day, nice correction in the afternoon session, but then they ended up right back down to the lows. Now, it is kind of lazy in the grand scheme of things, but that being said, then we open up with a huge gap down right at the start, completely underneath yesterday. But even more importantly, zoom out. We gapped underneath a lot of days. It wasn't just yesterday. We gapped underneath everything, really. We started gapping down into the price action that we saw back on the 17th. So we had a pretty big gap down. Now, notably, this gap down also is breaking underneath that big round number at 1300, right? That big number at 1300 breaks down, and that is going to be seen as a very obvious breakout attempt from the sellers. And because of the context, it has a pretty high likelihood of success. We're seeing the sellers show up, we're seeing them continue, and they're breaking down of pretty much any area of support that they could have found previously. So good chance of success on the breakdown for the sellers, but we still need a good reason to get in before you just start randomly slapping the sell button. The first candle of the day, great. Here we go. Starting of a range. We got a doji first candle of the day. That doesn't make anybody happy. We followed up with a nice bear candle, and, the first candle or the first attempt from any side, as we always say, not a good idea to be the first one to the party, but you could arguably sell that given the higher probability nature of the morning. I'm a much bigger fan of waiting after, the first 15 minutes or so before I start looking at taking any types of trades, and we have a bull counter move into an immediate dump lower. Now, the reason I like this as a sell instead of this, first of all, again, you could have sold that, but this is breaking down underneath that level of support that formed. A little micro double bottom that formed inside there, and they hammered underneath it. This is a decisive type of candle. Put it into a stark difference, right? This is not really that decisive of a candle. Yes, it's closing on its lows, but it's not very big. It's not breaking out of anything. It's not really proving anything. This, on the other hand, is proving a lot. They're slamming underneath the morning movement the first 15 minutes or so, closing very low in the move. Everything is pointing to the downside on this type of candle. So a beautiful reason to become a seller to drive the market a little bit further down. Now, after the market had a nice drop lower, they came back against this secondary breakout move. And notice where they found resistance, right at the secondary breakout candle's highs. They started selling into it. You can't really sell that one because it's kind of a gross candle. But then you get this bad boy right off of that same level. And then also notice it came back and tested that morning double bottom area. So the fact that everything lined up in the same place and such a huge rejection from the sellers, even though this isn't the type of candle that I would normally like to sell, given the context, this is a gorgeous place to look for a move back to the lows of the day. And that's all it gave you. Went back to the low a day, and we found a bunch of support coming right back in. Given this area of support, where are we likely going to go? Well, we may come back to that prior swing high, but they may even try to come back to the overall highs to see, hey, sellers, do you still want this, right? Are you still interested in selling this as a breakout morning? If you are, they're going to sell here aggressively. And that's exactly where they came back to. Now, the other nice thing, that lines up exactly with the EMA, right? So not only did they come back to reconfirm with the sellers if they wanted to continue selling, but it also lined up with a moving average. It's really hard to not want to sell that type of move. The problem is the candle ended up looking like garbage, right? Very big bear engulfing candle, but no follow through. So we have to wait. Buyers try coming in. It ends up being a bull trap. They get triggered in one tick above, immediately slammed lower into a heavy bear candle, and that is your reason to get in this going back to the lows once again. We hit the lows. Biggest bull candle of the entire day. I don't believe you, buyers. I don't think this is a buy move. I think this is a sell move that sellers took profit on, and that caused a bounce up. That is a perfect reason, in this case, of just, I don't believe the buyers in the least. Yes, we're in an area where buyers will begin scaling in, but is this strong enough to take this drive lower back? not a chance. So that allows you to sell into the move, assuming that you're going to get a trap for buyers who are a little too aggressive, just like back here, just like back here. Their stops are going to be underneath the lows, and if the buyers still want it, that's where they're going to take it, not way up here. So you sell into the move, assuming it's going to fail, drives down into the lows, and now we start finding support. Not a huge surprise there. So just a beautiful morning on the euro, very technical in that sense, and the currency markets tend to be that way. They're much more technical because the Forex markets just kind of operate off of that. Now, this is the euro currency futures, but either way, they still piggyback each other to a degree, and a beautiful drive in a breakout morning to the downside, even reconfirming with the bears at the moving average. It's kind of like the trade of the day if you limit it in there. Beautiful move down on the euro, both combining technical analysis as well as market psychology for the drop lower. And that's going to do it for this one. Hopefully you found it useful and interesting. Hopefully you learned something, and we'll see you next time.